to another edition of Active Living. We have probably one of the most active ladies here with us today. This is Sally Bolle. She is the president of the Greater Detroit Jazz Society and also president, or at least a member of the gardening club, local gardening club. And she is involved in a lot of different jazz activities around the Detroit area. So welcome to our show, Sally.
Thank you, George. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here.
It's an honor to be here. I've seen your other interviews, and I feel very flattered to be here with you.
Well, anyway, let's talk about your background a little bit. I mean, you're a jazz fan at this point, but were you always a jazz fan?
Well, when I was a very young child, my mother, everybody laughs, but my mother was a strolling accordionist.
Really?
In the 40s, and she worked at General Motors too, but she performed for General Motors parties and at the Kingsley Inn and the Fox and Hounds, and you know, they used to have strolling accordionists and sing along, and she was very active in that for a while. So I did that, and then I took classical piano for several years, and was involved in my church choir. I was the accompanist for the middle choir at my church. So I was always involved in music at an early age, but not jazz.
So when did at what age did you kind of discover this jazz thing that's going on? Instead of playing all the notes that are on the page, when did you discover this free form of music called jazz?
My mother and I used to travel all over to see live music, all kinds of music. And we used to go to the Fisher Theater for all the plays, and we both loved music. And we found a place in Union Lake called the Peanut Cellar.
Oh, really?
And they had a fantastic jazz band there on Sunday nights. It was kind of like the Red Garter, although more sophisticated music at that time. Tom Saunders led the band.
Wow.
And his brother Dick Saunders, who was the managing editor of the Oakland Press, that at that time it was the Pontiac Press, played bass and tuba, and Chuck Moss on trombone.
Right.
And it was just an all-star band, and quite often when Wild Bill Davison came to town, he was Tom Saunders' best friend, he would come out to the Peanut Cellar, and it was just wild. A lot of Detroit musicians came out and sat in, and of course Wild Bill
was a wild man.
Was aptly named.
I know. Believe it or not, the drummer that used to play for Wild Bill Davison actually played in my big band back in the late 90s.
Oh, who's that?
Frank Fogarth.
I know the name. Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
So Frank was a great drummer, and I can see the fun that they probably had at that club.
It was absolutely wild. They played for 3 hours on Sunday nights, and it was just so much fun. Peanuts all over the floor, but the music was amazing.
It's great.
So I met Tom there, and he and I were friends, very good friends, until he passed away. And then I followed his band for many years, the Surfside Six,
right,
around Detroit, and they played at the Presidential Inn, and a lot of different places around town. And through him, I met a lot of musicians, actually, but Bob Snyder.
Bob Snyder is a terrific clarinet player.
At that time, he was kind of the Dave Bennett.
The Dave Bennett of
clarinet,
the 1940s
saxophone,
and 50s, right?
And he had the house band on WJR at that time, and he off and on had the house band at the Grand Hotel. So, my mother and I went up there every year for the jazz. And
I saw him playing on the back of a wagon at one of the parades up at Mackinac Island. He had his little jazz band, and they were terrific.
He was an amazing player.
Yeah.
There is a story that I do know about. He was performing with Pops Temple, who was a very fine trumpet player in this area, and they played a gig in at a man's house in Ohio somewhere who had a firehouse, and he had 3 different bands playing that night, and one of the bands was Lionel Hampton.
Wow.
And of course, Bob Snyder wanted to sit in with Lionel Hampton in the worst way.
Of course.
And the guys in our band made arrangements for him to sit in with Lionel Hampton.
Wow.
So when that solo came about, Bob Snyder had the biggest ego in the world, and he walked in and he was going to sit in, and Lionel Hampton said, "Well, what would you like to play?" And he said, "Do you know Flying Home?"
Yeah, of course.
Lionel Hampton wrote it.
Of course.
But
right.
so yeah, there were a lot of stories about Bob Snyder, and most of them were true. But he was a dear friend.
Yeah.
You know, he died a couple of years ago, but he was a great guy.
And Bill played bass with him.
Yes.
I understand,
yeah, my
right?
husband played bass with him for many years.
Well, tell us about this jazz club that was the early jazz club before you and Bill got involved. That was the Windsor, was it the Windsor Detroit Jazz Club?
Yes, there was an entity in Detroit called the Windsor Detroit Jazz Club, which was started by Bill Knowles
Right.
and his wife, Ricky Knowles, who I never met, and Emily Laura, who was the queen of jazz in Detroit for so many years. She
Right.
was an avid promoter until she was 99. And it was an all Dixieland club.
Okay.
He had a lot of events in Windsor because he was a Windsor resident.
Right.
But they eventually brought a lot of events over here. So, a lot of people, around here played for him. Chuck Moss was involved in that group as well.
Right.
And they had a lot of the same bands that played all the time. I think Dave Bennett got one of his first starts playing at the Steak and Ale in Detroit with, I think it was Dave Tatro and Chuck Moss. I'm not sure who the whole band was,
Right,
but
right.
I've seen a recording and it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So as the years went on, Bill Knowles decided that he couldn't do that anymore, and my husband Bill and I were doing some volunteer work for him, and he did a newsletter back then, so I took over the design of his 12-page newsletter. I was working full-time, but we did that, and we got to be friends, but eventually he couldn't do that anymore.
Right.
So he asked us if we would take over the club, and we got together a group of a lot of Detroit musicians. Bill Meyer, Tom Saunders, Dave and Kathy Tatro. We had a meeting at our house, probably 30 people, to decide which direction we were going to go and were we going to be a 501c3 and blah, blah, blah. But it ended up that we decided we were going to expand the type of music that we offered to include swing and big band. But we were not going to lose our traditional roots. So we would always have
Traditional jazz.
Dixieland concerts.
Right.
And I think we've done a very good job of expanding our horizons without losing the traditional, our mission.
Not only that, but you've expanded your audience dramatically. I don't know how many members you have in the club now, but
we were up to 900 members at one time. But we continue to, Bill died a year and a half ago, so it's pretty much been up to me, and I am not ever hesitant to ask advice of my friends, the other musicians, who they think I should hire. This year, I had 94 requests for 39 openings.
Wow. So you had your job picked, just picking the bands that are going to play.
It's really a challenge, and it's kind of heart-wrenching for me. I'm not very, what's the right word? I want to hire them all.
Sure.
But if it weren't for the volunteers we have, working at Shields, we're at Shields actually several Saturday afternoons a month now, 1 to 3:30. But people know they have to come by noon to get a seat.
Right.
And I have Carmen Myers, our volunteer at the door, who's just fabulous. I couldn't do anything without Carmen. And we just have a host of volunteers that help seat, and they help with everything, sound equipment. And so, yeah, we're trying to become more diverse, hire some younger musicians,
right,
and yet keep the audience's favorites. So it's kind of a juggling act. It's difficult at times.
It's got to be hard because, like you say, you've got so many groups and you only have so many slots to fit those groups into.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to be the bad guy.
Yeah,
right?
It's usually me. Of course, it's always me. But I rely on the judgment of, often I'll ask Craig Strain or Jerry McKenzie or just my audience. I get wonderful feedback. We have the most fabulous patrons that belong to the Greater Detroit Jazz Society. I mean, I personally don't know that I would go anywhere every Saturday and sit and listen to jazz for 3 hours if it wasn't my entity. But they are there. They are loyal. They just love the music. They don't all love every concert, but they pretty much, the ones that like a particular genre are there.
They're there,
you
right?
know.
Now you're doing these concerts on Saturdays. How often do you do these concerts?
Well, it used to be on the first and third Saturday of every month,
Right.
but now I'm doing more like 3 a month to just try to get
Okay.
more of the bands in. Some months we've done 4, but it's really too much for me. But
So you have this venue, Shields.
yes, that
and they
Shields at 10 and Telegraph.
And they let you in every Saturday. You've got the whole room for the jazz club, and you've got a tremendous number of people that come in. You fill it up almost every time you have a concert.
We have the dining room, which will seat 128 people. That's
Okay.
It's pretty crowded, but often we have that many people, you
Right.
know, and seating is always an issue, as you know, George.
I do.
You know, we have, I always say I don't take reservations, but I have patrons that are there every time.
Right.
And they donate money,
Yeah.
you know,
Sure.
to have some privileged seating, and they deserve it. So the rest of the people, you know, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, trying to figure out where we're going to put them all.
Right.
But they're all wonderful, and they're absolutely just amazing fans.
But you've had some terrific groups in there, which is the other side of the picture. I mean, you're great fans. There's a reason you have great fans is you have great music. You know, I've been there for several of the concerts, and I prefer the Detroit musicians to a lot of the pros that come into town.
Sure.
You know, and that's why the Michigan Jazz Festival I love so much.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
But anyway, we have jazz every other week, almost, or more than every other week.
I have a great website that Janelle Reichman, the great clarinetist, designed for us, and so all of our concerts are up there. It's hard to say it's a certain Saturday, but if you check out our website,
Right.
it's GreaterDetroitJazzSociety.com. Tells you when those concerts are, and then I design flyers and hand them out at every
Right.
concert, so
Yeah.
everyone knows who's coming. And twice a year we have at the Terrace Inn in Bayview, we have jazz weekends. As you know, you're always there.
Right.
In the spring, we usually have 1 band in the spring and then 2 bands in the fall, and it's always sold out. It's just
Well, that's a great event. You come in on a Friday night. You have a dinner. I would say a snack type dinner.
Yep.
And then you have music on Friday night. Then you have music for Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
Jam session, and then you
Yes.
have Saturday night concert.
more of a formal dinner.
Formal dinner.
On
and then
Saturday
you
night.
have Sunday morning. You have a kind of a jazz brunch.
And the Terrace Inn is just a beautiful venue, you know,
yeah.
and they've improved the food over the years, and the rooms are immaculate. And the ladies shop in Harbor Springs on Saturday afternoon. The guys watch football, but it's pretty much music all weekend long, like you say.
Yeah, it's great.
And a lot of our members come up, but we have new people all the time that go. They had no idea we had a whole weekend of jazz away. It's very fun.
That's been going on for years, and
Yeah.
I've heard about it years and years ago. And I said, I got to figure out how to get there and when it is. And then I finally ran into you guys at the Jazz Society and said, "Whoa, I'm going to do this."
Yeah, and you've been there ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah,
great.
COVID didn't even stop us up there. So,
So anyway, talk to me a little bit about, you've got another venue that you do in the summer. It's called the Rec Bowl.
yes.
Talk to me about that a little bit.
In downtown Mount Clemens, this was our 11th year to do the Rec Bowl series. Fred and Patty Fox own the Rec Bowl. It's a bowling alley, but it has a marvelous outdoor seating area and a dance floor that seats about 250 people.
Right.
So, Fred Fox picks the band for that event. He
Oh, he
picks the
does?
band that
Okay.
he likes the best, and they're the same 4 bands every year, usually, but they're dance bands. So
Right.
it's a dance venue, and he does barbecue, and, it's very, very popular, and it's a lot of fun.
I've been out there a couple times, and I I'd like to go more, but it didn't work out for some reason. I don't know. What night is that?
It's a ways away.
Yeah.
It's every Wednesday in the summer, and we start in May, and we went through October this year.
Right.
They've added sides that close down if it gets cold or windy or rainy, and heaters and but it's a marvelous venue. It's just a lot of fun.
And there's some great bands, like you say, that play a lot for dancing, but a lot of jazz as well.
Yeah, it's usually, it was Johnny Trudell's big band. It's now Jeff Trudell's big band, and Dave Bennett and Planet Dino Net.
Yep, and TNT.
Is one of them, and TNT, big band, performs there. Yeah. And it's who am I missing? I'm missing one.
Oh,
the
boy.
Bands.
I don't know. But anyway, they're all good bands.
Yeah, they're all good bands. They're all dance bands. So.
Well, tell me about, also, there's another event that's coming up, which is New Year's. You guys always have, for the last, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I think this is our 8th year.
8th year?
We decided that we didn't want to be out late on New Year's Eve, but we wanted to have a great band.
Yeah, right.
And so we talked to Shields, and we said, how about if we did an early bird New Year's Eve? And they were all for that. They love it. So it's 6 to 9 p.m. It is sold out. It sells out immediately every year.
Right.
And the band is, actually Jerry McKenzie organizes the band for us, but he doesn't play. We call it Jerry McKenzie's Just Jazz.
Right.
So that he can have his name out there. But we've got 3 vocalists this year. We have Kate Patterson and Barbara Ware and Ramona Collins.
Oh, wow. They're all great.
Then,
they're all great singers.
Rich Michaels group, and Dave Tatro on trumpet, and Edward Gooch on trombone.
Great.
And we've had this band for a couple of years because they just put on a marvelous show. It's a lot of fun.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
And at 9 o'clock we toast somewhere in the world that it's midnight. So.
That's right.
Champagne toast.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so.
It's terrific. So we talked about the Terrace Inn, and that's, like I say, that's a terrific venue. There's an awful lot of things to do in Petoskey while you're there.
Yes.
I know some people like to go and hit the casino.
Yes, and the wineries.
And the wineries, right. I love that place.
Yeah, it's really a nice venue. The owners are terrific, and the food's good. It's really fun. It's a place you can really relax when you go away.
Let's talk about a little bit about some of the groups that are playing at Shields that do these Saturday concerts. You've got big bands like the Craig Strain Orchestra.
Craig Strain Orchestra will be there on December 10 with, he's actually bringing 3 vocalists this time. He's got the wonderful Emma Abakazem, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Is always with him. And Marvin Jones is going to be a guest that day, do a couple of tunes, and Kate Patterson.
Fantastic.
So that's the 10th, and then on the 17th we do a holiday party with Dave Tatro, and I think Barbara Ware will be singing. I think Marvin Jones is singing then as well. And then Carrie Price will be the first concert next year, who's who of American blues vocalists, and nobody does blues like Carrie does.
Right.
And she's got a great group coming in. Let's see, I should have brought my list with me, but we recently had a group called Third Coast Swing, which does gypsy jazz. And
I was there for that group. They were fantastic.
Just fabulous.
Yeah, they were.
And the crowd went wild. So I remembered the days when Dave Bennett played with the Hot Club of Detroit, and I said to them, have you ever heard of Dave Bennett? And they said, we are dying to do a job with Dave Bennett.
Really?
Because he plays that kind of music very well as well. So on March 18th, we're going to have the Hot Club of Detroit, along with their female vocalist, and Dave Bennett is special guests. So we have that coming up. We have a lot. I mean, you can probably think of some that you come to see too.
Like
Cakewalk and Jazz Band from Toledo with Nicole Heitger.
Traditional jazz, they're great.
Traditional jazz.
But some of the groups like the Terry Lauer on piano and those groups are just, those combos
Edie
are
Evans
just
Hyde.
phenomenal groups.
Yeah, we've had some really, really unusual groups, and we have a lot more coming up. I'm going to bring some new things in this year that people have asked for, and yeah, I think, we try to bring in what people really want to hear.
Of course. Yeah.
So so far I have about 10 requests for January and February, but they're already booked.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Don't forget Starduster's big band now.
I haven't forgotten. We're coming to see your band next week.
Oh, are you? Great.
Friday, a week from Friday.
Fantastic.
We'll be there.
It'll be good.
Haven't forgotten.
Now, tell me about this garden club that you belong to.
Oh, it's the Master Gardener Society of Oakland County, which is the largest Master Gardener group in Michigan, and I'm on that board. They're just absolutely wonderful.
So you're a Master Gardener?
Being a Master Gardener changed my life forever.
Really?
We're under the auspices of Michigan State University.
That's fantastic.
Of course, they make sure that we're on the up and up. So
someday you can tell me how to grow tomatoes. I've been having a heck of a time with growing tomatoes.
It depends on the year. This year was a good year, but last year was terrible. So they don't like certain weather.
Well, my wife thought she was going to grow the tomatoes better than I did, so she tried it this year, and they were terrible as well.
They were?
So I think it must have something to do with the soil.
Oh, I'll come over. Give you a little lesson. So my house is on the Troy Garden Walk next year. The Troy Garden Club puts on a walk that I've been on before, so that's an extra level of stress in my life right now. So.
You're probably the busiest person that I know. I don't know how you get it all done. You've got the newsletter that you do every week or whatever it is. You're constantly putting emails out, telling people where people are playing.
I don't do the emails like I used to. That was like an 8-hour project to put together a newsletter where everybody is performing. I do have a wonderful Facebook page, and we post a lot of things there. It's just Greater Detroit Jazz Society Facebook page. But I have about 3,500 members up there. And my goal was to get all the bands to post their events up there, so that it would be a good place for people to find out what's going on. And it's working very well. A lot of local bands that are wonderful that you wouldn't know about. So Facebook is a great resource to find out where the jazz is every week.
I'm out there every day or two and check out everything that's going on.
It really is.
And I post a few things out there as well.
Sure. I repost. I try to repost all the bands that I know that are good to that page, so that helps too.
Let's talk about the Michigan Jazz Festival.
We forgot about the Michigan Jazz Festival.
Yeah, that's a huge event. And personally, I like that festival a lot better than the Detroit Jazz Festival. Detroit Jazz Festival tends to bring in outside talent from outside the area.
They do.
Michigan is all Detroit area musicians, which I just love.
Well, the Michigan Jazz Festival was formed 27 years ago by Johnny Trudell and Tom Saunders and Emil Morrow, just for that purpose, because the Detroit Montreux Jazz Festival, I believe, was headed in another direction. They didn't want to hire Michigan musicians. So, of course, all the original founders have passed away, and I was humbly asked to be on that board a few years ago. And we've become extremely diverse.
Yeah.
We now have Scott Gwinnell and Dennis Teeney and Vincent Chandler are putting together excellent educational things that are on Zoom. You can go to MichiganJazzFestival.org.
I've taken part in a couple of those educational series, and they're absolutely great.
Yes.
You do a Saturday morning. I think it's Saturday morning.
Well, now they've moved to Sunday evening. There's one for people in the music business that's happening a week from Sunday that will be excellent.
Yeah, I saw that posted as well.
But the festival itself is the third Sunday in July every year. We were back with a vengeance this year. We had 7 stages, 42 bands, a lot of new young musicians, and it's just fabulous. Our board is younger and more diverse, and we've really done, I'm kind of in the fundraising end of it. I think we came up with an idea a few years ago for volunteers of the Greater Detroit Jazz Society to sit at the front table where people come in and give $5 to keep it alive. Well, at first they didn't know what we were doing, but this year they came in with their money ready. They knew we were there, And I think we were the lead
And they weren't
fundraiser.
$5 bills either, I'll bet.
No, we had some hundreds, and they were happy to see us and get their program, and
That's great.
And it was a wonderful event.
But I love that. I love that that venue because, like you say, there's 7 stages, and you have very diverse groups. Everything from just a simple piano bar
Yes.
to
Yes.
big bands.
Yeah.
And everything in between. And
Craig Strain is our president. You know, of course, he does a wonderful job. Bart Powlett, who's been the liaison with Schoolcraft College for so many years, just
Right.
procured the college again for us again this year. So
that's
we will
great.
be able to have it one more year. We had some issues with food. You know, there wasn't
the last
a lot
one,
of food
there
available.
was no food available.
Right.
That was a problem.
Right. But Joni Schott came up with the idea to have these fabulous jazz pins.
Yeah.
We sell them everywhere. We've saturated all the women. Now we sell them to the guys. They're $20 and they're real diammonds, and they raise a lot of money.
I got to tell you, real diamonds, huh?
That's what I tell them.
My wife bought one and wore it, and then the last time we went to Petoskey, she said, "Oh, I've lost it." So she bought another one. So now we have, and then guess what? She finds the old one.
Of course.
So now we have 2.
Of course. So one for you to wear.
Yeah, right.
We want to see them on all the guys now.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sally, it's been fantastic having you on our
George,
program.
thanks so much for inviting me.
You've been a terrific
I'm really.
guest.
I was so humbled when you asked me to be interviewed. I said, nah, I don't think so. But anyway, it's been great fun.
It's been a great conversation.
Great fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
yeah,
coming.
thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. It's been certainly a pleasure today having Sally with us, and we hope to see you next time.